You don't got to put a facade or you got to put a front to fit in. And that's why they say, the older you get, the less you give a crap about what people have to say about you or think about you. Welcome to Livestream. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Plains, with my co-host, Jeremy Applegate, where we teach you how to stream your life. How you doing, Jeremy?
Not bad.
That's grinding. Good to hear.
We're hustling. We're
That's
grinding.
Right, grinding. A lot of good things happening, a lot of bad things, but we're focusing on the good, right?
Yeah, celebrate the wins.
That's amen, man. Amen. So what's going on? What do we have to talk about today?
Hey, I've got a question for you.
Yeah, talk to me.
Interesting topic, and it has a lot to do with individual's character, right? So have you ever, or would you ever, consider changing a belief or a character trait to fit into a group or get a goal accomplished?
That's a great question. It all depends on what kind of response are you looking for. Is this personally or professionally?
Both. Let's dive into both. Let's talk about personally first. We're open books.
Well, I think, once we
Would you
start,
sell your soul to the devil is pretty much what I'm asking you.
I wouldn't sell my soul to the devil. But there are times that, that you think back when you were growing up and you wonder, was that your real self back then? Or were you trying to fit in while you were in middle school, high school, college, and whatnot? And I can tell you that there was many times that I did things I didn't want to do just to fit in.
Okay.
Have you?
I was a trendsetter. What are you kidding me? Forget about it. No, I'm just kidding. No, you know what? Going back, I'm a little older than you. So, to reflect on my younger years, there probably was a little bit of group influence.
Yeah. No, well, when I was growing up, that was the time that MySpace came out. There was a lot of
MySpace.
A lot of the social media started. Then we had Facebook. While I started.
Can I ask a question? What happened to MySpace?
The guy sold the company, and
Did he sell it to Facebook?
Tom sold the company, and he rode off to the sunset, man.
Oh wow! I didn't.
That was your friend. You had one friend. His name was Tom.
His name was Tom, and he's gone.
So I think if I were to tell you that I have never tried to make changes to myself that are not my real self to fit in, I'll be lying to you. So one thing about growing and evolving is that the more you grow and evolve, and you personally find yourself, you become more real.
I like where you're going with this. Keep going.
You become definitely more real, and you realize that you don't got to put a facade or you got to put a front to fit in. And that's why they say, the older you get, the less you give a crap about what people have to say about you or think about you. So I've realized, no matter what I do, meanwhile, I'm my real self, I can go to sleep peacefully, and I know that I'm being real to my friends, my coworkers, my team, and my family.
100%. I 100% agree. And, we get that question all the time, how do you handle situations when, why do you not care that people care what you think or care who you are or whatever the situation is? It's just part of being more mature, and it's part of growing up. And I think you start that sooner than you really think. I think you start building that a little bit in high school. Because you start being an individual and your individualism starts coming out a little bit, but it really starts showing its true color, later on in life.
Yes, sure. I'm the type of guy what you see is what you get, you know. The more time I spend with you, I've realized your traits, what your belief systems are, how honest you are, how loyal you are, and, how respectful of a man you are, not only to your team, but to your wife. And that has a lot to do with your character and who you are as a person, which legitimately makes you an amazing person and a great friend of mine. So
I didn't even pay him to say that, guys. That's amazing. No, thank you.
No,
back
absolutely.
At you,
absolutely, man. Thank you. So I've been growing and I've been evolving, and I look back on my life and I'm like, sometimes you dress a certain way, you act a certain way, or, you try to fit in and you do stuff that you didn't really want to do just to fit in or get the girl that you really, really wanted to get, So there are times that you do lose track of that belief, but the more you analyze yourself, I've done some amazing retreats, and I totally recommend you to do that because, one of them is in Sedona, Arizona. I went there for, a week. And I really worked on my inner child, and I really established a lot of my wounds that you develop as a child, and they translate to you as an adult. And if you don't start fixing those wounds, and you start realizing like, hey, little Alex, it was okay that you made those mistakes. It's okay that, that these type of things happen with your parents, or, with your family, or with your friends. It's all part of the process. And whoever tells you that they don't have some dark times in their childhood, some people had it better than others, of course, but I can tell you this, like, I totally recommend to go back and focus on your inner child and connect to yourself in meditation or spiritually to who you were in the past, and really talk to yourself and self-analyze yourself and recognize that these things that happen to you were meant to happen to you and make you the person that you are today.
I think you said that great. I think it's a challenge because, we talk a lot about self-development, but self-development is not always talking about or listening to the audio book Sales 101 or, how to create a stronger team, or, that's all part of self-development. But, the internal, the core self-development is doing this stuff and analyzing yourself and understanding, where you are in this part of your life is based on what you've done in the past or what's happened to you in the past. And, the quicker you identify that stuff, the stronger you are as an individual. I mean, I think. I don't know.
It's very important that, you figure out whether it's with, we're kind of getting it, getting out a little bit out of the scope of this, but this is very important. Yeah. You need to really work on yourself. And if you don't have answers, it's okay to speak to other people or speak to groups or get a life coach or, get a therapist and work through those traumas, because if there's stuff that's setting you back and holding you back, it's definitely going to affect the results of you personally, professionally, and financially in every regards. If you're holding on to those traumas and don't heal from them and don't learn how to forgive at some point, it's really going to hurt you more than anyone else.
Yeah, we talked a lot about this. Like, what would we tell our younger self? How far back will we go, and if I could just give them the knowledge I have now, that Jeremy from 9th grade or wherever it was, I mean, it would be absolutely amazing, to understand how life would be different.
Yeah,
what I mean?
Exactly. I can go back, there's a lot of bullying in schools and a lot of bad stuff. And, my kids get on YouTube and I'm like, oh crap, what are they watching? You got to be very careful on what they're watching, because there's a lot of bad messages on YouTube and TikTok and social media, and the parents are not even aware. You got to monitor what your kids are watching, because, it can be psychologically damaging to them, that, and the bullying is out of control. There's kids committing suicide because of bullying, and, the schools are not doing anything about it, and no one is helping these kids and teaching them that, you can't believe everything you hear from these bullies, and shame on you guys if you guys are bullying other people, but that's not the right thing to do. And that just means that you're just insecure. Bullies are just insecure people, and you're no better than anyone else, and you cannot treat people that way, because it will eventually come back to you.
I mean, 100%. I mean, let's get into it. I would not want to have a child these days, period. Our youngest is old. She's 22 years old. And there's no way in the world I'd want to raise a kid right now.
No, I know.
Because of all the nonsense that's going on.
No, I'm definitely considering, homeschool. I just saw an article the other day in Miami-Dade County. One of the superintendent was like, molesting kids, and, and it's happened so much. It happens so much that it's concerning. You got to be very calculated and very careful of the school, and you got to talk to your kids and ask them questions. You definitely got to ask them questions.
And when I was in school, yes, I am a little older than you. And when I was in school, if it was a bully, we fought. We fought. I mean, it was like, let's get it on. And nowadays it's, I don't understand what happened. Maybe it's all these damn participation trophies. I'm not really sure.
Yes. People are become too sensitive.
It's like, dude, if you're gonna come at me, I'm coming right back. And that's how it was when I was a kid. And you didn't survive unless you were fighting.
Yeah, you had to. I'm a lover, not a fighter, so I don't know about you, but I know you were.
I was a fighter.
Yeah,
I was a fighter.
So going back to the main question, like, don't change yourself. You gotta be who you are, no matter if people like you or not like you. You got to be true to yourself because that's who you truly are. And if you're having issues with, fitting into groups, or I remember the first time that I went to one of these big dental events, and man, I can tell you how insecure I felt there. I was 28 years old. I had just graduated dental residency, and I go into these big implant seminars where you got doctors that have been doing implants for 20, 25 years, and you just feel like, I'm clueless. I have no knowledge. What the heck am I doing here? But, you got it. I go to the bathroom and I'll talk to myself and be like, you know what? You're good. You might not be there where they are right now, but you take the baby steps and you continue to work on yourself. You'll get there. Listen, you're here right now. You're present. So that shows a lot about who you are and where you want to be. So those inner voices will screw up with your mind and make you feel insecure and say, oh, maybe I don't fit in here, or maybe I need to make a change to fit into this crowd or this group or this business club. But when you have a voice, you got to share it, and you cannot change who you are.
I agree. And a part of this also is choice, right? It's your choice to be weak-minded. It's your choice to make that bad decision. It's your choice to change your belief or character trait to fit into that group. It's your choice to, fill in the blank. So, for me personally, it turns into a situation of choice. Period. Like, everybody's like, oh, I can't make that decision. I can't do this. I can't do that. Yes, you can. It's your decision. It's your choice. And that's one thing I really get frustrated with when we talk to people. It's like, I couldn't make that decision because of blah. I couldn't make that decision because of this, or I decided not to, make that decision because of that. Whatever the circumstance is, you have a choice. You have a choice to make a decision. And we talk a lot about this too. And I think we're going to get into this more in another podcast, but like parallelization, of analysis.
Yeah.
And trying to understand that's all part of being in a group environment as well. Like, you can't sit there and say, oh, well, and analyze the entire group and then figure out if you don't want to do it or not.
Yeah. And another thing I want to state is, yeah, man, you got to be real to yourself, and you got to be real to your team, because your team can read through you. And they'll be like, Dr. Plains, you're not being real, or Dr. Smith, or Dr. Ramos, or Dr. Fernandez, you're not being real. And we can read right through you, and we're not going to work hard for you because we don't believe who you are. And you're a fake, or you're a fraud, or you're not the real person. I had one employee one time call me a fraud and called me a fake. And I was like, you know what? Let me take this home and analyze this. And the more I thought about it and I observed this employee's behavior, is the more I realized, like, I'm not the fraud. I'm not the fake. She just wasn't strong enough to admit her mistakes and the issues she has. And it made me realize, like, sometimes don't believe everything you hear. You got to analyze what's going on. I didn't respond back. I never went back to that employee, and luckily she's no longer with me. But I never went back and told that employee, what you said was really messed up or whatnot. But I did go ahead and analyze myself and say, am I really a fraud? Am I really a fake? No, I go in here and I work hard every single day, and I try to push what's best for not only my patients, but for my company and for the success of my team. And it was hurtful, but then I realized, like, I'm not going to believe it, because that person is more hurt than I am. And she was just trying to hurt me because she is hurting inside.
Isn't it funny how those people are always the ones that are most critical in your life?
Yep.
The ones that have, they try to bring people down to their level. I guess I'll say it in that way. Maybe not exactly how I want to say it, but it always ends up being a situation of they're being critical of you because they're in a bad spot in their life, or, and they're
hurting.
Yeah, and they're trying to do that. I mean, it's just, and when you're successful, those people tend to jump out and start blasting you on your success. Why is that? Why can't we, like we talked about earlier, we just said celebrate wins, right?
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, like, the moment I started doing this podcast, which, by the way, I pay to do this podcast and it's free. you know, I got a big bullseye on my back. I'm getting targeted more than ever. And it's just like, and listen, I have a lot of wins, but I also have a lot of losses. I'm no different than you guys out there. But for some reason, people think that just because you have your podcast and this and that, everything's all wins and
Wait
victory.
a minute. We're not making millions of dollars on this thing.
No, we're not. We're not.
Are you sure?
We're not. I wish we were. We do it for free. I think we make 50 cents a month.
I'm telling you what,
podcast.
guys, people have got this thing. I mean, we're going to get a little bit off topic here, but we do this for free. People tend to sit here and think that we do this podcast and we're making millions of dollars by doing this. Like, we don't. Okay? This is free advice. We've lived through this. We're talking about our failures, trying to pass them on to you. You know, it's important for you to share that.
Yeah, but even though we get criticized and, you know, and people say, you know, and we get more of issues in closed doors than we've ever gotten as a company, and personally to myself as well, professionally, I still continue to come here and I continue to share my voice, and I can really care less what people think, you know, because at the end of the day, somebody needs to be hating, you know, so you just gotta, my goal is to share my voice and my reason with you guys so you guys can learn from my mistakes. And like, you know, I remember when Sarah told me, you got to do a podcast, Dr. Plains. You have so much wisdom and this and that. And I was like, Sarah, I've never done a podcast. Like, why would I do a podcast? And she's like, people need to hear your voice and need to hear your story. So I'm extremely thankful for her to believe in me and get me started in this, you know, in this journey. And, you know, I have friends that call me all the time asking me for advice, like, Dr. Plains, Alex, what do you do in this case? What do you do in that case? And now you guys can hear me, you know, once a week, and you learn from all my mistakes and all my challenges that I go through. And the more that I evolve this podcast and the more comfortable I feel sharing my voice, you guys are going to see a lot of harsh realities of what we really go through every single day. So thank you for being a listener. Please subscribe below. Dr. Alex A. Plains or Livestream with Dr. Alex Plains. Thank you. If you like this episode, check out more of our previous episodes in Livestream with Dr. Alex Plains. Subscribe below.